quite said that. You know, if I talk about just in time, Lean says, you're not trying to make things so productive, you're trying to get things to flow. That paying attention to time is sometimes more useful than paying attention to how busy people are. That's useful. That's a good thing. So for a couple of years, I started just focusing on that. Look, I'm going to show you what to look for. I'm going to give you the tools. I'm not going to worry. I mean, I would say things like the management and the education, but I didn't have a lot of hope for that. What's interesting is since I've started doing that, this has started to happen, and this has started to happen. And that's kind of where this talk came from, is I actually noticed that this leads to this, leads to this. When you go in trying to do all three, and I'm not saying don't go in trying to do all three. If somebody really wants to do it all. That's great. But sometimes you lose the message. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just too much. So if you can just let's learn the tools, then maybe it could lead to this. And I don't want to be called a tool head because I don't really mean it that way. But let's look at least the right things. You know, if you're having troubles and you're not looking at the right thing, maybe the first thing is to do that. And then learn how to manage, and then learn how to do continuous learning. And I think sometimes we want to start here. It's kind of like, I guess I'm saying, is if you need to change attitude and trust and behavior, trying to wait for trust may not be the right way to go. We got to talk about trust and then better attitudes and then better behavior. I'm saying no, start with behavior. That'll improve attitude. That'll create trust. And that's what this is. So how do we do this? How do we do lean thinking throughout the enterprise? And notice I'm not saying scaling. I'm not trying to scale from teams. I've worked in organizations where the last thing you could do is get a team agile because there is no team. You go in and you ask, well, how many projects is this guy working on? They say 8. What teams is he on? He's not on, they won't say this, but he's not on a team. When you're on 8 teams, you're not on a team. You don't have a team. You don't have teams at all. You have projects. Yeah. So what we want to do is sometimes, this is kind of a lot here, but I do have just 5 minutes. The one thing business can do is maybe do a shorter planning cycle. In other words, if you do a year planning cycle, you're guaranteeing the average time from an idea in till it out is 15 to 18 months. If you do quarterly planning cycles and replan every 3 months, now you can do a big plan for the year, but then replan every 3 months, break it down. You're actually feeding things to the team better. And you can get some speed there. Or if you've got a lot of things in your product portfolio, manage that means minimum marketable features. Look for the smallest thing you can release that represents the business, high enough quality, but is the minimum thing you can release. So it's not minimalistic. That might not represent you properly, but it's not more than you need. So we find there are 5 places. Maybe feed the teams fewer things that are most valuable. Maybe have the product portfolio be better selected. Maybe start with team agility. Maybe have proper management of how do the different teams work together. Or you know what? You are writing code. Sometimes learning how to do test-driven development or acceptance test-driven development or patterns is a big, you eventually need to get here. The question is, where do you start? I have seen places to start at all of these. There is no place to start. It depends on where you are. Like, how do I get to I can't ask the question, how do I get to the Tower Bridge unless you know where you are? Well, how do I get to business agility? I don't know. Where are you? You don't always start here, which is what a lot of Scrum aficionados suggest. I'm not saying you never start there, but you don't always start there. So you got to be careful about that. In fact, one of the things Lean has is this notion of the value stream, like an idea in. Hopefully it's coming from the business. In many IT organizations, I should scratch out business and put IT there, and that's the big disconnect. IT should not be driving. See, what IT is really doing is they're building software that should be supporting business operational value streams. They're not always, you know what I mean? It's like their IT has a software development, but what are the services? Instead of saying, oh, here's what we're doing so these guys can use this, you should be saying, what do these guys need? Oh, I'll build that. So you come from the business end. See, if we start here, this will improve this, and will improve this, and it influences this, but only slightly. If we're what we call business-driven, actually we call it business-driven software development, the value stream of the idea. If we start here, this impacts everything downstream. See, if I open this up, it allows more things to flow through, but if I get my biggest value pieces, my most value pieces in the right order, it has a positive effect on everything downstream. So business-driven software development is a way of achieving enterprise agility. This is another way. You know what? If all you can do is come in here, come in here. If all you can do is come in here, come in there. Like you would like, actually come in across the board. And we've seen that too. Okay, I think I've got 5 more slides, so I'm a pretty decent time. Business agility plus team agility is enterprise agility, where management's the glue. When you hear someone talk about it, I don't know what the role of management is, and you're more than a team, I would walk out of the room, seriously. Management is critical. They're like the oil in the car. You need them. And this is starting to finally be appreciated in the Agile world. Like there's nothing else said that I didn't hear that. But a lot of Agilists, you will talk about being protected from managers. That's kind of scary to me. Unless I'm just on a team and that'll work. Okay. So there are lots of ways to transition. I can go from a yearly planning cycle. I'm not saying do all these, but you can actually go in stages. You know, quarterly planning with iterative release plans is the best. You don't need to start there. Come up with a yearly plan, but then replan it every 3 months. That's an improvement. Let things come in. Try to do the smallest things. See, if you've got a year plan and you're going to deliver it in a year, then you don't tend to break things down into smaller pieces. Teams get more clear on how to build it, and customers get more clear on what they need if you force these smaller deliveries. So this is just another diagram that I had with all the bullets. There's the business, incremental business-driven portfolio and release planning. There's team agility using visual control so you can see what you're doing. It focuses on speed while maintaining integrity. Management has this continuous flow. There are the technical practices. We kind of say it's like the team makes it, the business values it, management makes it flow, and you have to do it sustainably. So make value flow sustainably is your ideal. This is what we call the true value stream. Here are all my customers. Actually, I should probably have multiple clouds here because you don't have just a group of customers, you actually have groups of customers. But forgive that, you do have lots of different people, not just product owners, and we prefer the term product champion in the Lean world. Customers, these guys figured out, they define the products, you have teams building that, you have teams supporting those teams that are building that. There should probably be an integration group if you're big enough. And the value stream is this whole flow. So the business is up here, the teams are here, management is selecting and coordinating here. And that's really the Lean value stream, the business value stream. And we need to keep this in mind. So agility, scaling agility is sometimes from here going up, but business agility is how fast do these guys respond. Lean is the entire piece. The first generation dealt mostly with this, Scrum XP. The second generation, Kanban and Scrumban, which is basically taking some Lean concepts and sticking it in. Kanban actually is more than that. Kanban is truly the notion of using flow, and it's a Lean construct, but it still doesn't deal enough with across the board. It does do some influence. I'm being a little unfair to them, I admit, but they don't explicitly talk about this. In my mind, business-driven enterprise agility is the whole thing. And there are Agilists who do this whole thing, so I don't mean to say we're the only ones. If you're gonna, I'm not saying if you don't do Lean, you're not doing this, but most of the Agile world tends to fall in here. And I can hear from what Al was saying, they have moved that out. Jim Highsmith's moved it out, and then Objectives has moved that out, but unfortunately few people have moved that out. So what we're doing is redefining agility to be this combination. Okay? And that's just what we call it, business-driven software development achieving enterprise and team agility. Now I need to break, this was my last slide. I want to say a couple of things. I made a promise to my wife that I would take this afternoon off and pay the Covent Gardens tax. I paid the Harrods tax yesterday, and now the Covent Gardens tax. I think you know what I mean. So I'm going to be here for lunch, and then I'm not here. Alan Shalloway, president of Net Objectives, is doing 2 talks. He's going to give more of the details of this, and he will also be in the panel. But I'm going to be here for lunch, so if you have questions, please see me then. And I have some literature about what we do. I'd be very happy to talk to you. And then please look for Alan. He'll be here before the end of lunch, and like I say, he's doing the 2 talks after Bob Marshall's talk right after lunch. So thanks so much for your time, and hopefully I'll talk to somebody.